There are so many idioms in the English language to describe the state of Payday 3 and the so-called Operation Medit Bag, I was actually spoiled for choice when it came to this title. Fixing a leaky faucet in a burning building, putting lipstick on a pig, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, or simply polishing a turd. It's tough, man. It's genuinely tough for all involved at this point. The designers and devs can conjure up a completely positive update full of solid additions to the game, and yet be met with complete ambivalence, and the worst part of it all is that no one can seriously blame the community for being ambivalent, because this is what they've been conditioned to feel after the past half year of nothing for Payday 3. It's a losing battle, and unless you're suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, it's hard to even feel sorry for Starbreeze at this point. However, this video isn't going to be a full-on moan. The underlying message from me stays the same. Payday 3 is a rotten shell of a game at the moment. No minor tweaks or additions can fix that. It requires a fundamental overhaul, and I actually think trying to update around those necessary major fixes is a fool's errand. But I also believe that I owe it to myself and the people who watch my initial impressions video in good faith to be as objective as possible and offer all the public feedback I can. Being dismissive and purely miserable all the time is doing a disservice to the happy-go-lucky version of myself from 1 year ago who believed in this title. So we march on, and whilst I don't think there's much point in looking at individual upcoming changes in a vacuum, as the context behind Payday 3's sorry state is crucial at the moment, I do want to do them the courtesy of a proper analysis. That said, today we're going to have a look at the new content additions for Payday 3, shared by the dev team that will be releasing in the next update, probably later this month. Firstly, where am I sourcing my information from? Well, it's predominantly the weekly blog posts, where Mio and the community team get the opportunity to share their previews on upcoming Operation Medit Bag content, as well as the lesser spotted dev streams, where full-on post-patch gameplay is shared in full, and sadly not that many people tune in. Anyway, I thought Liz and Mio's stream last Thursday was quite insightful, so that will be a primary source for this video, and I'll be using clips from that stream to illustrate my points. Speaking of points, how about us getting 7 more skill points for free? This is the first change we know about coming in the next patch, and it's kind of a big deal for Payday 3 builds. After the patch, we'll have 28 points to play around with, unlocked at a slightly faster rate, but still capping out at level 100. Now, purely from a game balance standpoint, I have already suggested that this might be too much too soon. You really won't have to sacrifice anything on your builds now, so I worry slightly that the meta will just become even more fixed, as more points just means less decisions to make. However, don't get me wrong, the game might be too easy, but at least there's a chance it'll also be a tiny bit more enjoyable, as those extra points help with the power fantasy that's sorely lacking. Skill lines are the only thing that have consistently been updated in Payday 3 from a content standpoint, so I can see the core for it as new lines keep arriving in the game. Unfortunately, even if you gave me access to every single skill point in the game, I'd still pack less of a punch than with just one completed skill tree in Payday 2. So in the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure how much this will help, but it certainly shouldn't hinder the fun factor of Payday 3. Moving on, let's talk Fortitude and the new adrenaline mechanic it's bringing to the game. Straight off the bat, I think it looks great, viable, genuinely fun, and unique. As I said on Twitter, it's probably the closest thing we'll now have in the game to a perk deck, actually encouraging a new entirely self-contained playstyle with different mechanical nuances. The line reads as follows. Its base skill increases your maximum health by 50 points. Whenever you heal to above max health, you'll gain or refresh grit. By acing that out, your maximum number of downs are increased by 1, and your bleed out time is increased by 50%. The second skill, Health Siphon, will allow you to heal for 40% of your teammates' heal whenever they use your Medit Bag charges, and if this brings you above full health, the excess amount is converted to a new defensive resource known as Adrenaline. Adrenaline is a second, green degrading health bar that you gain access to through Overheal. When Adrenaline is active, it will absorb damage before even your armor does, disappearing slowly over time in the event it isn't completely removed by incoming damage. Your max adrenaline value is equal to your build's total health, and outside of via Health Siphon, it can also be tapped into by all players by simply overhealing via first aid kits and medit bags. Genuinely, I like this implementation, as it might finally give us the chance to play a little more aggressively now we can temporarily safeguard our precious armor. The rest of the skills in the core tree synergize with Adrenaline to make it even more powerful. Unyielding will increase your maximum health and therefore Adrenaline capacity by 15 for each down you currently have. Supraphysiological will give you an additional 10% worth of Adrenaline, again for each down you currently have. Walking Tall reduces your adrenaline degradation rate by 25% for each held down, and allows you to use FAKs to pause degradation for 10 seconds at a time. Finally, Pain Asymbolic doubles the impact of Edge, Grit and Rush whenever you have adrenaline, and you'll take 10% less damage to that health pool. The Mastery skill, Stockpile, simply grants another 2 additional charges to any deployable bag in your loadout, meaning even armor builds are getting some love with this one. Overall, I really like the design concept. It takes a bit of inspiration from perks like Maniac in Payday 2, as well as skills like Frenzy and Berserker, where entering a specific state can buff your hoster temporarily. These are all aggressive, fun to play styles, so I'm really pleased that they're leaning into this, and it runs sort of counter to the established armor meta thanks to its interactions with the down system. Of course, because it's dependent on using deployables and FAKs, it's going to be a bit micromanagey, like just about everything else in Payday 3, but hopefully there's still enough on offer by Fortitude to make the playstyle viable and, more importantly, fun to play. My initial thoughts are that because it mainly avoids conforming to the limiting Grit Edge Rush system, simply making passive use of those stats as a side benefit, it might actually have some serious potential. I do like the idea of the final skill doubling their effects, but 20% over 10% is still so conservative, I doubt you'll really feel the difference. That's the core problem with the system though, I think, and why we can't look at update segments in pure isolation. Grit Edge and Rush just completely lack any sort of fun feedback or mechanical ambition. I've never hated it, I initially liked the structure it offered, but after going back and playing more Payday 2 again and fully exploring what Grit Edge Rush has to offer, it's no wonder no one's playing the game. There's no build expression, and even when you do try to experiment, everything feels like a different shade of brown. So, rant out of the way, on one hand, hats off to the game designers behind Fortitude, the skill line looks fun and engaging to play. Hell, from what I've seen and experienced of it, it probably will be overpowered, and right now, that's okay. It's something for us to genuinely enjoy amongst the stagnancy of everything else. But, on the other, every skill line should feel like this. Hell, I'm not even convinced skill lines need to exist. A tiered tree just works better by saving designers from having to interbalance the skills. Sometimes we need to stop trying to reinvent the wheel. In total, maybe 20% of Payday 3's skills are functionally viable, 4 or 5 being necessity skills, and the rest just being better than nothing. The only really fun and viable skills in the game are ones like Ammo Funnel and Replenish, and maybe something like Overcooked. So yeah, my approach is to praise Fortitude for sounding like a fun concept that will also be highly playable even on Overkill, whilst also damning the fact that the skill system as a whole is a woeful regression from what we had in Payday 2, and prevents me from really getting excited about anything. And I get it, I don't think Payday 3 has to be Payday 2 all over again, it needs to stand on its own 2 feet, but I also think it's fairly unforgivable that the game is just fundamentally worse in so many areas, and by the day at this point, these flaws are becoming more and more apparent as the game's simply stagnated. But hey, there are little rays of Payday 2's light shining through the cracks, as this stream also showcased adaptive armour in action. I'm not sure about its purple colouring, but I'm absolutely positive this is going to be my go-to armour choice from now on. Essentially, trauma damage is removed from it, meaning you will not take permanent plate damage anytime you get shot. The trade-off is that it's currently limited to a 2-plate variant with 2 potential downs and 20% less damage reduction. Yeah, I bet you didn't realise Armour had a damage reduction stat, because for some reason that's never been shared before. This is a massive hit that you will seriously feel, but for me at least, it's worth the peace of mind that my armour will function reliably for the duration of any heist. I hate the armour degradation system. Death by 1000 cuts, just in the words of Bloodborne maestro Miyazaki, engenders passivity. With armour that fully regenerates up to your active plate, you can actually rely on its protection instead of having what just amounts to basically 2 health bars. My prediction is that even if regular armour is theoretically still the stronger option, people are going to gravitate towards adaptive simply because it'll be more intuitive to use and involve less of that trademark Payday 3 faffing and micromanagement. If that does happen, as I predict, it really will beg the question why the designers are so determined to stick with the launch armor system, but again, giving them their full dues, this is a step in the right direction that will cater to fed up players. Oh, and before you think you'll just be able to break adaptive armor with plate up, yeah, we thought so too, so it has been nerfed accordingly alongside its addition. So, 3 major new content drops, all coming in the next update, which is hopefully almost upon us. I'm sure the game will be in a better place for their existence, so why am I still glum? Well, it all goes back to the title of this video. It's a drop in the ocean relative to what still needs to be done to turn Payday 3's fortunes around, and I think my main concern is that prioritization and follow-through is all over the place. Players ask for an armor system overhaul, let's just give them a taste of what they're after. Players ask for a skill build overhaul, let's just give them more points to paper over the cracks and start adding fun and interesting skill points from here on in, instead of addressing the core complaints around the base system. To me, it all seems a bit half-hearted, even when the focus is in the right place, and in general, I think it's targeting Payday 3's core issues in completely the wrong order. As I said recently, it doesn't matter how fun Fortitude is, people aren't going to come back and try it out until there's a wealth of new heist experiences in the game. It's a chicken before the egg situation that I fear won't turn the game's fortunes around in time. To address those of you confused by this perceived negativity, I don't intend to come across this way. I agree that the devs are now moving the game in the right direction. I just feel as though there needs to be a seismic shift in how Payday 3 is perceived for it to one day reach its full potential, and at the rate Operation Medic Bag is going so far, death by 1,000 cuts might just end up being how we refer to the sad petering out of this beloved franchise. I think Starbreeze needs to be braver than this. They need to come to terms with the fact that a number of their core systems are genuinely disliked, not misunderstood, and they need to stop doubling down in their defense of these things and having to walk them back a couple of months later. It's not a good look. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I think Update 5 will be good, I'm looking forward to it, but I really don't begrudge those of you who aren't. It's hard to sway anyone but the most hardcore at this point without a bit more substance. Anyway, Apex Gaming PCs, they're full of substance. Recent price drops make them a hell of a lot more affordable, and they're still built to the same outstanding quality. Check them out from the link below, stay tuned on the channel, and I'll see you all very soon. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.